Welcome to another episode of Money You Should Ask. I'm your host, Bob Wheeler, and in this episode, we're going to explore, question, examine, dig deep, converse, expose, laugh, and cry about the money beliefs, money blocks, and life challenges of our next guest. Turn up the volume, listen, learn, and laugh.
Good news, bad news. Bad news first. Growth comes from learning, which is a lifelong endeavor. Good news, growth comes from learning, which is a lifelong endeavor. At the Money Nerve Academy, we hold space to explore, navigate, discover, and heal your relationship with money. With our online course, Mastering the Emotions of Money, you can get in touch with your fears, blocks, and beliefs around money so that you can become more aware of your current financial story. By understanding why you do what you do with your money, you can create a different ending to your financial story than the one currently taking place. Check out themoneynerve.com and start mastering your emotions of money.
Well, today, our guest is Jason O. Myles. He is a real estate entrepreneur, consultant, and educator. He's extremely passionate about business development, which began with his first business in real estate, Salient Development and Investments, LLC. An entrepreneur and business owner for over 20 years, Jason has had a variety of unique experiences ranging from owning an automotive and finance company to helping build a real estate firm. He has created a niche in working with small businesses, utilizing his top-notch sales skills and a passion for helping others succeed. Jason has also been featured as a platform speaker where he has shared the stage with many well-known motivational speakers and investment professionals. In his spare time, he and his business partner, Steve Connolly, who we recently had as a guest on the show, have developed Real Estate 360 Pro, which is an online resource focusing on real estate investing training. So, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you are coming to us today from
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. I love Atlanta,
it's
Georgia.
Wide open down here.
Peachy.
That it is.
That's the place to be. So, all right. So you are now you've got your empire as you're taking over the world one house at a time. What got you into real estate? Like, was that were you when you were 7 and 8 years old? Were you like, I want to own all the real estate, or like, how did you get here?
So for me, it was looking for something else to do. I was in the entertainment business for a long time since I was young, promotions management and marketing.
Okay.
And in my mid-20s, I started to have a family.
Right.
And the entertainment business keeps you on the road. And I didn't want to do that. I'm an active father, and I don't want to miss anything. So I had to find something else to do. So I sat around for a while trying to figure out what it was. And ironically, when I quit that business, I had some real estate and I sold those. But I bought that real estate to save money because you've got all these street teams, right?
Right.
These people, these groups of people that you have to send, from one city to the next. And the cities that I frequented, that we spent the most time in, instead of putting them in hotels, I bought condos because they would just destroy the hotels and it would cost me an enormous amount of money. Keep in mind now, this is in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. Mm-hmm. So cell phone usage wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So they're using the phones, they're beating up the minibar, they're ordering food, just tearing up the rooms, and it wound up costing me more money. So in an effort to save money, I bought real estate.
Yeah.
Because if they wanted to eat, they had to go buy it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
If they wanted to drink, they had to go buy it. And so I sold that stuff, man. And it took me about 2.5 years before the light went off and said, hey, you made money on accident in real estate. Just imagine what would happen if you put your mind to it.
If you focus. And what gave you, like a lot of people might be in business and not have the wherewithal to say, gosh, maybe I should buy condos and save some money. Like, where did you have a financial background? Did you have parents that were very proactive and supportive and giving you guidance? Or were you doing it on your own and it was just natural impulse?
It was just a natural impulse. My family, as it relates to money, is completely opposite for who I am today. Okay. so, I mean, my mother played the robbing Peter to pay Paul game,
Yep.
week after week after week. I mean, just constantly. Unfortunately, it's where I learned about kiting, right?
Oh,
what
yes.
that was. Because you can't float checks anymore. You
cannot.
No, you can't do that anymore. She was the queen of floating checks. But she did what she had to do, right?
That's right.
But I did not have any financial education whatsoever. Being in the entertainment business, my job was to pay attention to the dollars and cents, making sure artists got paid, making sure travel was taken care of, per diem, so on and so forth. So that was what I was innately good at, and that was something that just showed itself as I did it. It wasn't something that I looked towards doing.
Right.
I didn't get into the music business to be, a contract writer or a contract observer.
Right.
That's not what I wanted to do, but it wound up being where my skill set was.
Yeah.
That was where, I was good. And I was good from a very early age at making sure the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. And I just developed that over the years. And a lot of the executives that we worked with would say, hey, have you ever thought about doing, this or doing that? Because I paid attention to the dollars and cents.
Yeah. And
I liken that business or my experience at that time to a very well-paid babysitter.
Oh, nice. With lots of benefits.
Lots of benefits. But there's, as good as it can be on one side, it can be equally as bad on the other. And more often than not, it is. But, it's all about our tolerance levels, right?
Yeah.
I just couldn't tolerate it anymore. It wasn't something I wanted to be a part of, regardless of how good the money was. I'm passionate about making money, but I was not passionate about making it in that industry.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, that's important to know that I think it's true for me as well. I enjoy money. I enjoy what it does, but it is not my overall driving factor in my decision making. Because if I'm not having a good time or I don't like the people I'm working with, you can't pay me enough. There's no dollar amount you can pay me to want to do something.
That's for sure. And one of the things I tell people about, there's different theories and ideologies about all kind of things. And you'll hear people say, listen, find your passion and just do that. If you can't be passionate about it, you shouldn't do it. And there is some truth in that. Mm-hmm. But overall, I find that our passion generally gravitates towards what makes us money, especially when we can control certain factors.
Right.
And when you own the company, you can decide who you want to work with.
Exactly.
Right. Or I should say how you want to work with a person. Because there's a lot of people we work with that are very, very good at what they do, but we just don't like each other.
Right.
But it doesn't mean we don't do business together.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably why I've worked for myself for a very long time. It's because I don't like other people telling me what to do.
Absolutely.
I like telling people what to do.
Absolutely.
But with love. I always do it with love.
You got it. I mean, and that's what it all boils down to. Buddha has, and I'm not a Buddhist, but I really enjoy history and philosophy. Buddha has this saying, believe nothing unless it agrees with your own reason. Mm. And when I hear things like that, it's not that you want to surround yourself with yes men.
Right.
It's not that at all. But we have to be open to these new ideas and these new opportunities that present themselves. And if you asked me 20 years ago or 30 years ago, what I'd be doing, I'd be knee deep in the entertainment business.
Right.
I'd be retired, or knocking on the door of retirement right now from that business. I never, ever imagined being someone who would be teaching people how to make money or learn, the different aspects of wealth and what it really takes or what it means to have wealth, acquire wealth. I just never thought that that's what I'd be doing coming from the background that I come from. I don't come from anything.
Right. And do you remember when you were younger, was there a specific moment where you said, for whatever you might have said, it might have been, you know what, I don't like being poor, or I want,
absolutely.
I want what they have, or like, do you remember that moment of you said, you know what, I'm doing it different?
Absolutely. For me, I was 14 years old. There was a concert that came in town. I was working with a rap group. I was a part of a rap group.
All right.
But I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", in shape. I'm 270. That's in shape.
I'm about three of you. Okay.
So, I mean, even though I'm in the rap group, I'm always the guy that's at the door, right?
Yeah.
So, but there was a gentleman that we met, a promoter that had brought this group in town that we were fighting to open for, and he liked us, and he spent time with us, and he started to talk. And it was watching this guy who I'd never met before, obviously, listening to him, watching how he moved and navigated through the club, and was just, do this, go here, make this happen, don't do that, making sure that everyone was happy. And at the end of the night, he's walking away with a big check.
Right.
So I asked him, what it is he does. I mean, I see that you brought this here, but how does that work? And that began a relationship. That was the very beginning of a relationship where I got a chance to work with this guy. Every time he came in town, and then that, over the course of the next 2 years, turned into me being an assistant on the road, which ultimately meant, he threw his briefcase at me and said, "Hold it, don't say anything, just do what I tell you."
Right.
And I was very good at listening.
That's amazing. So the main thing what I'm hearing is some curiosity, not being afraid to ask some questions, willing to take in the information, and then actually listening.
Exactly. And then waiting for my opportunity to do something. And I understood, I was a kid. I was 16.
Yeah.
I was happy that my mother even let me go and do these things, to be honest with you.
Right.
I mean, those experiences were amazing for an adult, let alone a child.
Yeah.
And coming home with, $3,000 or $4,000 after a week or 5 days on the road in the summer was beyond conceptual. I remember when my mother got a raise to $30,000,
right? And
we had a steak dinner. I mean, that was a huge milestone. Of course, that was in the early '80s.
Yeah.
But that was a $30,000. I mean, she thought she won the lottery.
Right.
We thought we won the lottery.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But the floating of checks never stopped.
It never does. Never does. Well,
more
it does
money
now.
Just meant more.
Exactly. You can't do
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I had a couple of those moments in my younger years, and thank goodness I'm not living in this. Well, I am living in this day and age, but at that time, not having money and not having the float. What were your biggest hurdles growing up? As a kid, as you started to get in the entertainment industry? I mean, maybe you had no hurdles, but were there hurdles, and how did you deal with them?
My biggest hurdle was patience, to be honest with you. I have no shame in the things that I want to do. My ambition leads me, and I'm okay with asking questions and finding my way to the next person and the next person and the next person. I want to be the lowest man on the totem pole in every room I'm in. I'm looking to be the lowest man on the totem pole in every single room I'm in. And I put myself in those situations. I found ways to get myself invited to certain things where I could meet people, mingle, talk, see what opportunities I could develop. That was a strength for me. And in some people would say that's a weakness. Your ambition can hold you back in certain circumstances. Well, I can understand how that may play out in a corporate environment, but I was never in a corporate environment. Right. If my success is my success, and the more successful I am, the people that I'm working with and for, in some cases, are going to be that much more successful as well. And I utilized their appetite for success to fuel mine.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I one of the things that you said, which I want to repeat because I think it's so important, and I think so many people don't feel this. You said, "There's no shame in my ambition."
Exactly.
And I think that is so key because so many people have guilt or shame about, I want to get ahead, I want a better life, I want to have abundance, I want to be seen as a leader, whatever those things might be. And so our fear and our shame hold us back. And to just proudly claim, this is what I stand for, is such a powerful place to come from.
Absolutely. And more people need to be about that, because the reality of it is we're going to experience every emotion in the emotional rainbow on every level that we achieve, right? There are days, I may have, we might be closing a $3 million deal, but I'm still a little nervous. There's still a little fear. There's still a little doubt even. Am I doing this right? Is this the right move? Did I structure it correctly? There's always this doubt. Can I continue, this upward projection? That fear can stifle a lot of people. You've met people before who had a goal, and that goal might be, I want to make $150,000 this year. Yeah. And they hit that goal in 6 months.
Right.
And now, here's what separates, I don't want to say the winners from the losers,
right,
but people that have defined what it is they really want to do, and people that are just kind of guessing. You set that $150,000 goal, one person is going to say, I didn't set it high enough. I hit it in 6 months. I should have set $500,000. And then they're going to adjust it right there to $500,000 or $350,000 by the end of the year, which is 6 months down the line. The other person is going to feel as though they've accomplished something and can now take a 3-week vacation,
right,
spend a little too much money, come back, a month later, and they've blown through, $25,000, and they're like, oh, well, I didn't think about taxes, or, there's still all this time left, or whatever the case. And because they didn't leave their business working for them while they left, they have to start all over again. So it's like starting from ground zero.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask you this. If you look back on your history of experiences and all of that, do you have any financial stories where it's like, man, I wished I had done it different, or this was my one regret was, gosh, I wish I had?
To quote Jay-Z, you got to learn to live with regret. So I have to say, are there moments of regret? Yeah, but I can't honestly sit here now and say there was this moment or there were these moments, because sharks got to swim, man, or they die.
Right.
I just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
And I have to put it in my rearview mirror and learn from it, of course, and do things differently. Like my first multifamily, I did on my own.
Yeah.
I structured that thing. I knew what to do. I had my operations in place. Once I closed on it, it was totally not what I had anticipated, because I was too quick to get into the deal. I was too quick to get in. As long as the numbers aligned, I could work everything else out. And of course I did. $200,000 later, So, and I don't care who you are, that's a big nut to swallow.
Right.
That's a big nut to swallow. And I had to figure that out. I had investors. I had to make sure that they were taken care of over the term of this project, but I had to swallow that. And had I just slowed down, taken an extra week to look at the deal, and then offer something different maybe, or get some kind of consideration for things that needed to be done, because ultimately you feel like you paid too much money.
Right.
But, and you did, but it was my choice. My actions led me to spend too much money,
right,
because I was too anxious to get into the deal.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that people start to look at, reinterpret failure as lessons, so that it's not like, oh, I failed. It's, oh, I got another lesson that I didn't know I was going to get.
That's right.
And I also think, like you're saying, yes, it could have done it different, but for me, I look back and say, well, I did the best I could with the information that I had. And so I don't regret it in that sense because I was working with the available information, and I had some blind spots. And so I think for people to be a little bit more gentle with themselves, to be a little kinder and compassionate when we make those lessons come to fruition, so that then we can keep moving forward and learn.
Yeah, because the reality of it is, if you make a mistake, you got to own it, right?
Yeah.
And owning it doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means learning from it and moving forward. Beating yourself up causes you to lose sleep, have heart conditions, have a stroke, all kind of, poor relationships, personal relationships, because you can't let it go. You just have to let go. It happened, you learn from it, and you move forward. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. If you allow it to beat you up, if you allow yourself to beat yourself up, you're going to do those things. You're not going to sleep well. You're going to be mad at everybody.
Yeah.
No one's going to want to be around you. You got to let it go. You've learned.
Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, you've learned. And now just move forward.
Now, if you look back on all of your happier life experiences over the course of your life, how did money play a role in those moments?
Well, it was a progressive thing coming from nothing. When you make a little bit, you feel like you've got to spend it. You feel like you have to show it, basically, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. Once I realized I didn't have to show it and that it was a tool, I started to do different things for myself. Once I started to do those things differently for me, I started to see holes in everything. It's like being in the Matrix,
Yeah.
I started to see all these things that could be different. Not just what I could do for myself to be different, but what I could show other people, other small businesses that aren't going to get this information. I have found myself in rooms, on planes, private, on golf courses with billionaires, because I use the people that I know and their connections, 6 degrees of separation.
Right.
Sitting around those people and how they think about money, how a person that makes $60,000 a year thinks about money is completely different than the person that makes $1 million, which is completely different than the person that makes $1 billion.
No, absolutely.
Just completely different worlds. And learning how to think like that, or at least have those conversations, learning how to have those conversations to change those thought patterns was just breathtaking to me. I mean, it was eye-opening to say the least. Being able to share some of those thought processes and those networks in some cases with people that just don't have that. They don't have access to that because I don't care where you went to school, unless you went to Wharton.
Right.
You're not going to have a lot of this education when you start your business. So you have to align yourself with people that have that education, which only comes from being in it.
Absolutely.
You don't learn it anywhere else.
Absolutely. And to that point, what piece of advice would have helped you if you had known it sooner?
Be patient. Be patient. That's the one thing for me, because there's a very fine balance between being patient and being ambitious, especially when you're young, the whole young bull thing, right?
That's right. Gotta have it now.
Yeah. And I didn't have a mentor to say, slow down, man, look at it this way. Let's do this. Don't buy that. Let's focus on this. Do now. I heard a saying, which everyone has heard, but I think I was maybe 19 or 20 when I first heard it. Do today what most people won't, so you can do tomorrow what most people can't.
Nice.
And once I started to implement that, everything was different. I started to invest differently. I started buying businesses, as opposed to starting businesses. I started investing in dividend stocks, which is a very slow process. But if I can make 5-6% a year and I'm adding, 1,000 or 2 or whatever it is a month or a quarter, and I don't think about it and you just let it go. The dividends come in, you roll the dividends back over. And after, you close your eyes 5, 7, 10 years later, you've amassed something quite significant.
Yeah, I think I just want to reiterate right there, people, reinvest your dividends because
Exactly.
it's not very noticeable on your tax return on those reinvestments. You're paying on the dividends anyway.
That's right.
And let it build because it's just instantly going back into the investment. And
That's exactly right. And there are some out there that pay very well. I mean, some AT&T is like at 7% a year, or something ridiculous.
yeah.
That's it's not a guarantee, but it's as close as you're going to get.
No, absolutely. I'm a big, for my investing, I tend to invest in high paying dividend stocks versus stocks that are going to appreciate because that's not a guarantee.
That's right.
But I know if they've got a history of paying dividends, those are the companies I want to invest in and then reinvest the dividends.
That's right. My grandmother, my dear sweet grandma Mary, would do that. She would only invest in. This is the one person. She passed away when I was 8, so I didn't really get to learn from her. But she came over here from the former Czech Republic.
Okay.
When she was a little girl, and at some point learned that it was important to buy utility stocks, and she would buy utility stocks and reinvest the dividends.
Smart.
And I got that little tidbit from her.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's just one of the things that I remember from her as a little boy. My grandfather went to work, and then she was squirreling away at her paperwork, and that's what I learned between that and polka dancing.
There you go. Well, they go together. It's so obvious.
Exactly.
It's so obvious.
That's right.
Now, did your mom have any beliefs about money that you remember, or do you find yourself saying, or that you had to let go of?
No, my mother was chasing money her entire life.
Yeah.
It was never enough.
Yeah.
Not that because we didn't have a lot. I've never known my mother to have less than 2 jobs. During the holidays, she always had a 3rd job until she got that job where she got the $30,000. But until that point, and I was probably 14, 13 when that occurred. But to that point, it was even then, really, it was always about getting it more money, paying the bills, because, she came up in the era where credit cards were new, and you give her $1,000, she's spending $1,200.
Exactly. Because it's all free money that you never have to pay back when you get a credit card.
Exactly. So that was my experience with money. I remember my stepfather and her, because he was completely different. And I know that my very first real estate deal was done with him, but he was completely different, and he wasn't a good teacher. He just acted.
Right.
He just did. He didn't talk about it. He just did, and you'd have to pay attention. But it wasn't a covert act.
Right.
He just didn't talk about it. To him, money wasn't a thing that you discussed. It was a thing you did.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And do you talk with your children about money, and how much do you tell them?
Absolutely. So we at my house have had and still have Money Mondays every Monday.
Cool.
Where we talk about the bills, we talk about the mortgage, the interest, the difference between investing and owning companies. We talk about all these things. They've had bank accounts, they run their bank accounts, they balance their books. I want them to have more of a financial education early on than I did. And I bring them to things that I do, like closings and certain types of meetings that I have, because I want them to feel comfortable in those environments. Because to a certain extent in the beginning, I wasn't that comfortable because I didn't really know, but I did it anyway. And then I put on my mask and I did what I had to do. But if I can take that piece of it away for them, they're going to grow up in a world infinitely different than the one I grew up in terms of their understanding of money.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And, in talking about that and talking about kids, which leads to legacy, what do you want your impact to be?
So for me, ultimately, I want to be able to touch enough people that can touch enough people that can touch enough people. Making, Jeff Bezos money is not in my radar. If it happened, great.
Right.
Not saying I don't want that to happen, but for me, it's about creating independent recipients of wealth and showing them, teaching them how to reciprocate that, how to give it back. And if they can do that, if I can touch and make significant changes to 100 people in my lifetime, and each one of those can do the exact same thing, you may not ever remember my name. 3-4 generations from now, no one will remember Jason Myles, but they'll remember what their parents did for them. And they'll remember what their grandparents did for them, and so on and so forth. And that would have come through me and all the people that helped me get to where I'm at. That's what I want from the impact of my life in this world to be.
That's awesome. And I think that's awesome because it's less about taking credit and more about knowing that there was impact that gets paid forward.
Absolutely. Because who cares if my name is on the school?
And that's Jason O.
That's Jason O. Myles.
Jason
That's
O.
right.
Myles, by the way.
That's right. Jason O. Myles. Not O apostrophe, because a lot of people confuse that too. Oh, you're Irish. No, not today. Not today. Once a year I am, though.
Once a day. Yeah. Maybe not this year, but.
Yeah. I didn't get the opportunity this year.
We didn't get to do that this year. Well, Jason, this has been so wonderful. Where can people find you on social media?
Well, it's Jason O. Myles, M-Y-L-E-S. So you can find me everywhere there. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's Jason O. Myles. And we teach real estate, and we teach, we do all kind of different things, right? So I've just got a book that just came out on Amazon. It's called When There's Blood in the Streets, A Real Estate Investor's Guide to Winning. You know, so this is the times that we're living in now, these are the times when people accumulate massive amounts of wealth. So I wanted to really share that with people, and for people to not worry about not having any money. I started this business with literally $300.
Wow.
You know, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. You just have to want to do it. And then, of course, we have a lot of educational materials, real estate and business related. You can find a lot of those on the website. It's the Jason O. Myles RE-network.com. I know it's a little long.
That's all right. We'll make sure that that's posted in our information, and we'll be sure and post about the book. So if people want to buy the book, they can click on that. We'll make that all accessible. I think that's awesome. I love what you're doing and helping people get more financially literate and learning to build their wealth. Without making money being the only driving factor,
That's right.
But certainly being able to enjoy the benefits of the work that you've sown.
That's right.
So
you got to live below your means, guys. Live below your means.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I so appreciate it. I want to say to our listeners, please don't forget to share the love. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search for Money You Should Ask, all one word. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, or your favorite podcast player. And if you prefer to watch our episodes, head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Jason O. Myles, it has been incredibly awesome having this conversation with you. I really hope people will check out your book, check out your Real Estate 360, if I have that right, and take advantage, ask questions, and listen and learn from what you've already been doing out there. And I so appreciate you coming on the show.
And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Absolutely.